Hi, welcome to Creative Chelsea. I'm really excited to share with you some fun projects I have made. But before I do that, I'd like to remind you that Sale-a-bration will be starting January 3rd, and there are some really great products you can receive when you purchase $50 or more. Look for more details below in the description and for a link to my online shop. So today we're going to be using the Free as a Bird bundle again, and it also comes in a suite with some great designer series paper, as well as some ribbon and trinkets and some really fun products. So make sure you take a look at that if you don't already have it. So I've got my designer series paper, and it has the beautiful birds on one side and then these great stripes on the other. You can see that. Now these birds are really fun, and I have used them on some other projects where I've just cut them out and used them as is instead of using the full sheet. But I thought today I'd give you some ideas on how to use the full sheet of paper. I've got my card bases, and we're just using Whisper White. And then I've got 2 sheets of cardstock. We're going to use soft suede for the bird side, and then Petal pink for the stripe side because it matches that pretty pink stripe in there. I've got some imagery that's been stamped, and I always stamp whenever I'm using Stampin' Blends, which is what we're going to use. I always stamp with the Memento black ink. And then I've got some watercolor paper, and we've cut that out using the stitched nested label dies, which bundle with the stamp. And I've used number 7, and I always mark my dies with numbers, and so it goes from 1 as the smallest to 8 as the largest, and so this is the second to largest size. And I've cut 2 of them since we're going to be using 2 cards, and on one of them I've watercolored Pool Party. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how I watercolored this watercolor piece. We're using Pool Party and an aqua painter, and you could use just a regular paintbrush as well. Just will need a cup of water with you. So in the lid of my Pool Party, I've added a drop from the re-inker, and I have water in the bladder of my aqua painter, and I'm just going to squeeze a drip of water and mix that with the ink in my lid, and then I'm just going to put it on a scrap paper, and I'm just going to start watercoloring. And one of the great things about watercolor paper is that it doesn't bend up as much, and you can go over it a couple times to really get some different color variations, which is what you want. So I'm actually going to pick up a little more ink and dab it to kind of get a little darker color in some of these areas. So I'm actually picking up color just from the corner of my ink pad, which, you know, is probably not recommended, but it is fast. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and let that dry. To clean your aqua painter, you just squeeze the water and let it come out of the brush until it runs clean. Okay, so that will go to the side to dry. And then I've stamped some of the other images we need for the card. And so I'm going to go ahead and color those. And I love the Calypso Coral color on this flower for this card. And so we'll be doing that. Let's start with that. So I began with just the dark Daffodil Delight, and I placed that in the center. And then I added some dark Calypso Coral just to some shadow areas. Okay. And then you're going to take your light Calypso Coral and you're going to blend. I'm actually going to use the fine tip side. And I'm just going to blend all that together. kind of bring it into the yellow a little bit. Really work on blending that dark color into the flower a little bit more. Okay, so you can see how all those different colors make for a really beautiful flower. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same to this one. Okay, so those flowers are done. Next I'm going to use the old olive, both the dark and the light, and we're just going to add some shadows first, kind of where those lines of the leaves are, just to give it some variation. And then I'm going to blend that with the light old olive. And then lastly, just get some, I'm going to use the dark crumb cake and just color in that branch. Okay, and now we're going to cut these things out. And so I'll do one of the leaf and then one flower, and then I'll pause the video, finish them off screen, and then come back. So one tip about fussy cutting is to keep your scissors in the same place and then just move the paper. Okay, and then one of the flowers. So I'm actually just going to go around the edge, and then I'll come back in to any little areas and just snip them out separately. And you can be as fussy as you want, right? You can get right up to close to that line, or you can give it more space so that there's more white. That is totally up to you. I kind of prefer to have a little bit of space, but not a ton, but that's just my preference. I know a lot of people want no white, and so they cut right on that line. And I'm just not that exact of a with my scissors. I don't know if it's because I'm left-handed that cutting with scissors is not my favorite thing to do. But it's worth it for some imagery and for certain designs and cards, so that's why I do it. Okay, so I've got my flower and my leaf. So we're going to go ahead and I'll pause this and I'll be back when these are all cut. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've cut out all my leaves, And I've placed glue dots on the back of each leaf just to kind of help me put the card together a little faster. So let's start. One last thing we need to do before we can add everything together is we need to use this beautiful tin tile embossing folder, and we're going to emboss the soft suede and petal pink cardstocks for our cards. And we do that at the Big Shot. Okay, so you can see how beautiful that tin tile embossing folder is. I just love the designs and the shapes. It looks like this one came out a little crooked, but that will be okay. All right, so let's put our cards together. We've got white card base, and we're just going to add our card designer series paper card to our card. Oh, that one didn't get cut right, so I'm going to cut this. Hold on. Okay, so that's cut to 4 inches, and it should be 5 1/4, and I think it's just 5 1/2 because it's just a little long. Okay, so now we can add that to our card. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to add our soft suede. And I like to use liquid glue for embossed papers. And the reason for that is just because it's going to adhere a little bit better since that paper is bumpy. And that's just going near the bottom. Leave about 1 inch from the bottom. Okay, so grab one of the papers that we watercolored with Pool Party, and we're going to stamp our bird on the paper, and we're going to then color him with the blends. And so let's do that. I'm going to do it, I think, right here, and we're doing it in the Memento ink. Ink them up really well, and then we kind of want him a little bit near the top. So not quite in the center. And then while we've got the ink out, let's actually do it twice. I have to bring that closer to me. Let's do this one too. Flip that around and do this out there. And then we're going to do the greeting, which is "Your friendship means the world to me." And that's just going like around, like we want the feet to kind of line up with those words. Okay. All right, so our stamping is done. So now we just need to color in our bird. So we're going to start, let's start with our dark Daffodil Delight, and we're going to do his beak. And then grab the light Daffodil Delight and just go ahead and do his whole body. And then we can kind of see where we need to add some color. Okay. So I would like to take a little bit of the crumb cake, and we're using the light color, and I'm just going to add some to his wing and under his wing for a little bit of shadow, and then under his belly and a little bit on his tail. You know what? I'm going to put some under his neck and under his head a little bit too. And then I'm going to take the Calypso Coral light. I'm going to add a little bit of that pink to his breast just to give him a little bit of color, and to his shoulder and the tips of his wing. And then if I need to blend that in a little bit, I can just add a little bit. There we go. Okay. That's not going on very easy. There we go. So this paper, this watercolor paper, it's bleeding out a little bit. So I'm going to let it finish bleeding, and then I might take my color lifter and just go along that edge a little bit to pick up any of that color that's bled out. So this one, I'm going to do it a little differently. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to not go right up to the edge as much. So I'm going to leave that little border along that image so that when it bleeds, it doesn't quite go as far. And I think it's just the paper. The paper is just really good about soaking up that color. So then we're just going to add our crumb cake as a shadow and on the wing, and then a shadow and some down here. And then some of that light calypso coral just on the breast and on the shoulder and on the tips. Okay, so I'm gonna go grab my color lifter and I'll be right back. So this is one of the things that's really fun about the Stampin' Blends, is that if you do come out the line and it's bothering you, you can always fix it. So right here, I can just bring in this color lifter and it's gonna lift out that color for me. I'm just going to come in a little bit more. Do the same here. And up and around. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and add. So you'll notice that it got a little fuzzy along that edge, and I'm okay with that. It kind of gives a little bit of a shadow. I wonder if that is actually the memento ink that is reacting with the alcohol and has pressed into the paper a little bit. So that doesn't happen when you use regular Whisper White cardstock. You'll see that that is a nice clean edge, and I think it's just because we're using a watercolor paper here. But I like the watercolor paper more than what's happened here with our watercolor wash on the regular paper. It's really wrinkled the paper, and you don't get a very smooth color. So you kind of, it seems like you kind of have to pick and choose which one you're going to do. And I'm okay with this, but now you know, so you can choose what you'd like to do for your cards. Okay, what am I doing? All right, so next we're going to add this to our card, and we're going to apply it with some dimensionals. And I'm going to use this edge and just snip. And that's just giving me a little bigger piece for this bigger and heavier paper. And I'm going to center that on my card. And now I'm going to take those leaves that I already have cut and added glue dots to, and I'm going to add them. The first one I want to kind of cover up the feet with, and then the second one can just kind of come up. I do want it to stay in the card and not go off the card. And then we're going to add one of the flowers. I'm going to do that with some liquid glue here. And I have 8 inches of twine. And I'm going to put some snail on the back of my flower, and then I'm going to wrap back and forth this twine and then I'm going to add it to that center where the leaves meet. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the same thing with the stripes. Should go a little faster. So I've got stripes, and this time I've done it vertically. You could do horizontal. I think it would be really great. Maybe we should give that a try and just see what it looks like. Oh, I didn't cut this one down either. Okay, so that's cut to 4 and 5 1/4. And then let's get the Petal pink paper, and we're going to add our label to it. So I'm just going to cut a couple of those. And that just gets centered on our Petal pink. It's a nice contrast to the pool party in the background. And then add our leaves. This one could go off if we're going to do it horizontally. Let's see. So that's that way. Yeah, I kind of like it this way. So let's do that. So this can come off slightly. And then do the same thing with the flower. A little bit of liquid glue. And then some snail on the back. And then 8 inches of baker's twine, or more if you'd like. And you're just wrapping that back and forth to create, you know, a couple loops to give it whatever look you're wanting. Okay, and then that just gets placed on that glue dot. And then let's apply that to the center of our card. So I'm going to bring it up just slightly. And main reason is because this Petal pink, if I center it, it's going to be right in that Petal pink. And I want that edge to show just a little bit more. So I'm centering it in the Old Olive and the Daffodil Delight. So there we go. And you can always add some more accessories if you'd like to step it up a notch. And so this one's slightly different, and the only reason is because I've used Whisper White instead of the watercolor paper. So you can choose. You could even just do the bird separately and cut it out and then apply it, just like we did with the leaves and the flower. So that is up to you. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, like, and share. Visit creativechelsea.com for a free tutorial of this project and to purchase the supplies needed. Have a creative day. Bye.